Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, Q Nostalgia here, and today I'd like to talk to you guys about a game known as Ad-Infinitum. The footage that you're seeing on your screen right now actually came out about a year ago, so this is a game that kind of slid underneath the radar. The devs have been kind of silent about it until recently, but it seems like they're definitely making a bigger push now. The first thing to note about this game is it is being headed up by an independent studio known as Strix Labs. These guys are based out of Germany, and there's only 6 of them. So what are we looking at here? I mean, it looks like a normal World War I shooter kind of game until you notice a claw come over the side of the trench. Obviously, there's something strange going on here. Now, the timing of this, I have to say, it's a little unfortunate. I think it should have been closer to the time that Battlefield 1 came out, just because there seemed to be a lot of hype for that era at the time. Not that I think that that's been diffused at all, but it just would have worked out better. Okay, so we just spotted a demon-looking guy running away. It looks like this is a German soldier. I'm not positive, but I'm going to assume because the developers are German, the coat that he was wearing also looked like something that the Germans had at the time. He's running away to get away from this thing. Not a lot of information, right? That's all we've got in terms of gameplay. We've got a lot of screenshots. Well, we've got some screenshots, but not much else to go off of. I'm going to get to the screenshots in a moment, but I just want to talk about the atmosphere that they've crafted here. Now, World War I, first of all, is terrifying to me to begin with. If I could pick a single war in American history to completely abstain myself from, let's say I could be randomly tossed into a war at any given time, just because fuck logic, okay? I would pick World War I as the one that I would possibly never end up in. Okay, that's the one I would completely get rid of. I'd take off the list. You could send me to any other war, any other possibility. They would all be hell, right? War is hell. That's just the way it is. It's the impossibility of reason. You can't reason with someone when they're fucking shooting at you. But World War I was particularly brutal. We're talking about mustard gas, trenches. We're talking about people who, you just get slaughtered if you went into no man's land, which was anywhere between your trench and the enemy's trench. People who were digging underneath you, just horrible, horrible, horrible environment. Rats and corpses and awful shit. Okay, so when I think of wars, I think the worst, definitely World War I, in my mind. I'm sure there's going to be history buffs going, actually, EQA Nostalgia, this war way back in such and such time would have been way worse. I'm talking about in American history, okay? No thanks. I want nothing to do with it. So that automatically gives you an atmosphere that's fucking horrifying. Now just add some sort of demonic presence that's in the trench, actively stalking you, chasing you around. That's pretty terrifying shit. To be completely honest with you guys, a large part of the reason why I got interested in this game is because it reminds me of a movie that came out in 2002 called Death Watch. And this is somewhat of a cult favorite of mine. It's not very well known. The reviews for it aren't very favorable, but I don't give a shit. I love this movie, and I've loved it for years. And you know, I can tell the developers, they must have seen it. If they didn't see it, then it's uncanny. The similarities are uncanny. I highly recommend you guys seek out that movie and give it a shot. If you don't like it, you can come back to the comment section and tell me, hey man, you just wasted an hour and a half of my time. Please go fuck yourself at your earliest convenience. And that's fine. I'm willing to take that risk. Just go check that movie out. And I can feel the members in my audience with ADD slowly starting to drift away as I talk about a movie that they don't give a fuck about. Okay, so getting back to the game. Sorry, guys, I had to put that into perspective for you because I do think it's worth knowing. This is obviously a survival horror game, and it looks like it's going to be the kind of game where you run away and you're not really fighting. Yes, for me, that's kind of it's a disappointment. I don't really like that. It's something that I just I don't like going in guns blazing either. I didn't like Resident Evil 5 or 6 because of that very reason. I don't like being overly armed for the situation. But I think that a good game, a good survival horror game, has a mix of oh shit and release. Oh shit and release. So if you're not blasting something and releasing that tension, it just doesn't feel as good. It tends to feel a little monotonous and frustrating. That's the best way for me to describe it. It's not to say that I don't play games like that and enjoy them. I played Layers of Fear. As you guys know, you don't fight back in that game. You're just going through this insanity, and I absolutely loved Layers of Fear. So I could love this game as well, or it could be a game that I don't like. Like I really didn't get into Outlast. So I don't know. I have to get in there. I got to get hands-on with it before I can say one way or another. But this game is going to have puzzles. It's going to have traps. So those are two classic things that I love from the early Resident Evil days and from the early Silent Hill days. So you might be thinking to yourself, what the hell, I don't want to be running through trenches the entire time. Well, thankfully you won't be doing that because as you can see in these screenshots, we are going to be going into different areas. Now obviously we're looking at some sort of underground prison here. The lighting is fantastic in these screenshots. It's looking like the game's come a long way, even since the trailer. It looks like they've definitely brushed their graphics up a bit. Something that's always impressed me for some reason is the dust that gets caught in the sunbeams and in the lighting. Something that I noticed first, I think, in Resident Evil Remake, actually, oddly enough, way back in like 2002 on GameCube. I know you guys remember those days. It just immediately when I saw that, I don't know, it just blew my mind. So to this day, even when I still see it, it looks great. Now, all of these images we're seeing, each one of these areas, you're going to notice it has its own little color palette. This is very clever. It's a trick that I'm seeing used a lot in games that typically have the same drab setting. Now you can see in this it looks a little bit more red, but it's still a trench, but it gives it a different kind of a color and a different feel. This area here, it's got that same that glowing embers feel to it. It's a very creative way of taking a very similar setting that would normally just be very brown and gray and blah, and they turn it into something that feels like the environment is varied, like this. It looks very black and white, old-timey. So this is looking very nice. Graphically, yeah, you can color me impressed. Now, before somebody hops in the comments and preaches about graphics and don't be a graphics whore and this and that, one thing you have to understand about survival horror is that the graphics are really important, more so than I think other genres, because it's one of those things where it's so dependent on the atmosphere. The atmosphere is part of the character. If you watch a horror movie, guys, you're going to notice that part of that horror movie is the setting. Like when you watch Friday the 13th, Camp Crystal Lake is a part of that story. It's a character in the story. Nightmare on Elm Street, it's always the neighborhood that's part of the story. I could go on and on. Jaws, you've got the ocean, the setting. Setting is everything. And if the setting doesn't look good, if it looks like crap, it doesn't have to be hyper realistic. It doesn't have to be photorealistic. It can be stylized as long as it looks good. It's very important. So before I get anybody yelling at me about being a graphics whore, you got to understand, in this genre, this is something that carries a lot of weight. So there you have it, folks. That is Ad-Infinitum. Still somewhat of a mysterious game. We don't know everything about it yet, but you can rest assured that once information comes in, I will be covering it here on the channel. If this is your first time swinging through the channel and you like what you see, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're not yet convinced, check out these other videos. I thank you all for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in my next video.